Hi friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Saurabh Chhabra. Uh, it's been a while. I created a video for Hub and Spoke. Today I would be discussing more or less like Hub and Spoke strategies, right? So I would be creating, I would be showing you few Hub and Spoke strategies where multiple Hub and Spoke are involved in the same environment. So we'll be discussing about that. If you find this video useful, please like, share, and comment. And please subscribe to my YouTube channel and do share it with your friends and family so that people can also learn as well. Thank you. And let's just get started. In my previous video, I showed you about a normal hub and spoke model where we were using the firewall and trying to communicate between the application and the database VMs. And this was a typical one location, one environment, a very basic kind of a hub and spoke model where we have a spoke one wants to talk to spoke two VM via hub firewall, right? So this is a very basic thing which happens in every environment, right? So when we create something in production, so we usually create this kind of environment, or for that matter, for any environment, right? Non-prod as well. So let's just go into deep and let's see when if so this is location one, right? So within that location we can have multiple spoke, and then within that spoke, if a spoke wants to talk to another spoke, it will go via the firewall, and you have to allow the firewall rules here, you have to allow the NSGs here, you have to create the route table so that it will forward the traffic to firewall. So this is all I've all stated these things in my previous video. If you want to learn more about it, you can go watch my previous video. Okay. Today we would be discussing where we would find when are the cases when we will be finding multiple hub and spoke. Right. So let's just talk where, for example, if we're talking about a production scenario, and here I have just shown you spoke one and spoke two. It can be anything, right? The number can be anything. It can be 7-8 spokes connecting to the same hub, right? But let's just talk if we have multiple locations into picture, because not every other location is the DR, right? So there can be a two locations can also be simultaneously in sync, because we don't want a failure kind of scenario. If one region is down, then also we don't want to fail over and then start our applications in the second region. We want it to be simultaneously working in all the regions, right? So there can be a production environment in the other location as well. If that's the case, sometimes the application wants to connect, right? If one VM from one region wants to connect to the other VM in the other region, then there would be two hubs involved. Why I'm saying two hubs involved, there has to be two hubs in place in both the regions, right? And the traffic will not flow via spoke one to spoke two in the other region via single firewall. It has to use two. So let me just scroll down and I'll just show you what I meant when I said two regions. So here we see this is Central India 1, this is Central India, and this is West India, right? So these are two locations, and I've just shown you this is spoke one, this is also spoke one, but this is spoke one in West India, this is spoke one in Central India. So if a VM in spoke one wants to talk to the VM which sits in West India, it will not use a single firewall, it will use multiple firewalls, right? Why? Because you don't have VNet pairing from the spoke to the next hub which resides in the next region. No, you have pairing between the hubs, right? So in this particular case, there would be two firewall in place, both in their respective hubs. So you see there's a hub in Central India and then there's a hub in West India. So if the traffic wants to flow, if you want to connect to the other VM which resides in the other region, then the traffic would flow from the VM which resides in spoke one. You have to first of all allow it in the local subnet NSG, right? And then you have to have a route table connected to that particular subnet, so that when the destination is this, the traffic goes to the firewall, right? You have to have that kind of a rule inside the route table which is connected to this subnet. Okay, so once that is done, so the next hop would be this firewall which resides in hubs of central India. So once you reach into that firewall, you have to have a rule which allows the traffic from source to destination on a certain port, right? So once that rule is allowed, and you have to mention a route table, right? There has to be a route table for the firewall which would be transferring the traffic from this firewall to the next hop, and next hop would be the next firewall. This can also be achieved via BGP routing, but in this case, I am showing you the global VNet peering. So the next hop would be the firewall which resides in the hub of West India, right? When we talk about West India hub, it also has a firewall of its own. So you have to allow that traffic where the source is this VM, the traffic is this VM, or if the rule says that all the traffic from all, the IP range, we don't have to give a single IP, and we are giving the IP range of the subnet. So if a app subnet of spoke 1 of Central India wants to talk to the app subnet of West India, right, then it will allow the traffic of certain port, right? So this is how you need to allow the traffic in firewall 1 and in firewall 2, which resides in the second region. And then once you have allowed the traffic, then comes into the incoming rule in the NSG, right? So because here it would be outbound, here it would be inbound. Again, in this firewall it would be outbound, in this firewall it would be inbound. In any case, there's a difference between the rules in the firewall and NSG. In NSG, there is clearly outbound and inbound defined, but in firewall, you just have to mention the source, the destination, even if it is so if you mention source and destination, that means that it is source can be outwards and destination can be inwards, right? So if the destination is here, so it's an inbound for this and there's an outbound for this, right? So once it is allowed here, then it will go to the NSG. If it is allowed here as an incoming traffic, then the traffic would reach here. Again, you have to have VNet pairing between the hub and spoke. If you don't have VNet pairing between hub and spoke, it will not transfer the traffic, right? If you're using BGP routing, then you have to have a route table at the gateway subnet of individual spoke VNets. That's a completely different story. How to use routing when there is no VNet pairing and we are using express route to send the traffic. But we would be covering that in a different video. But here we have VNet pairing between the spokes and the hub respectively, and we have VNet pairing between the individual spokes for different regions, right? So as you can see the arrow, right? So if the traffic is flowing anywhere, so from this VM to this VM, you will go for this direction. If you're going from this VM to this VM, you will go from this direction, and you have to do it inwards, right? So it would be outbound for this NSD, outbound for this firewall, next route table, next hop would be this firewall, right? So in this firewall, there would be a route table, and in the route table of that firewall, you have to mention that any destination, right? Any destination, which is the range of that subnet, the next hop would be the virtual appliance, which would be the Azure firewall in the Central India location. And you have to mention the IP address, the internal IP address of the firewall, right? So that is how the traffic would flow from one region to the other region. So this is the case where I'm just talking about production, right? So there can be multiple hubs, there can be multiple spokes for non-prod dev as well, right? There is very less of the scenario where your production workload will talk to a spoke which is in dev, right? In that case, you have to have a VNet peering, global VNet peering between those hubs. But usually that is not the case. But even if you want, then you can have the routing in place so that if you don't have VNet pairing, then it will go via BGP routing if you have express route in both the hubs. But that's a different kind of a technical solution. But currently, we are just discussing about one environment. If you're talking about production, then all the production workload will talk to the production workload only, and it is not connecting to any dev or any non-prod. But there can be a scenario where I don't encourage that, but there can be a scenario for that. The next one thing that I want to show you is the other thing where you have multiple hubs within one regions. And when we say multiple hubs within one region, what do we mean by that? Well, I've worked for a company where they created a core hub, right? And then there were multiple hubs which were connected to the core hub. I have created one diagram for that also. So let's just talk about this particular case. So you see, this is the core hub. Let me zoom it. So this is Center India. I'm just talking about Center India at the moment. I've not created the other video where not created the other diagram where I would be showing multiple locations. But let's just talk about one location in this because it gets complicated when you create multiple regions, multiple core hubs, multiple hubs, right? Let's just talk about this particular region. So if you see this, so there is a gateway subnet, there's firewall subnet, there would be multiple subnets within the core hub, right? And then we have VNet peering between core hub and spoke hub. Don't misunderstand when I say spoke hub to a spoke. It's not a spoke. It's a spoke hub. When I say spoke hub, there can be multiple spoke hub connected to the core hub. So whenever there is a new branch to be created, new engagement is defined where you would be creating new workloads. So you can add if I see this, let's just go here. So what I am saying is you are trying to add this into this. So this can be a core hub and you just add all these three things into this core hub. What it will make this as a core hub, and there would be a spoke which is connected to the hub, and there can be another hub which is connected to this hub. So this is what I have done. So this is a core hub, and then we have different spoke hub, and then with that spoke hub we have different spokes. I have mentioned it as a finance and a treasury, right? So if a VM in finance wants to talk to a VM in treasury, so what will happen is this traffic will go to this firewall will send the traffic to this firewall will send the traffic to this firewall, and this firewall will send the traffic to the next VM. It finds clumsy, but it is a practical solution where you have multiple workloads, you have multiple branches. I have seen company doing this where they have created core hub and created 8 or 9 spoke hubs, and then within that spokes hubs they have multiple spokes which are connected to the spoke hubs. So this is also one of the scenario where when you see the workload count increases, right? So connectivity part is done in here. So express route would be here. You will not have express route in spoke hubs, right? You can have a domain controller in spoke hub, or you may not have a domain controller in spoke hub, but usually we have it. And sometimes if the design does not have it, then everything will go to core hub for authentication, right? So you usually keep the domain controllers into spoke hub also, right? So you create identity subnets, you create management subnet, and then you create the connectivity subnet right? So you can place your domain controllers here as well. But express route and the VPNs, right, virtual network gateways, all remains in the core hub. So you basically are dividing one core into one hub into multiple hubs, right? One being a core hub and all the other would be the spoke hubs, right? So that's a practical solution. That's an industry solution, standard solution, which many companies are also following. If you have more than, more number of workloads and you have individual subscriptions to be added. So, and this is also a practical solution when we say security, right? So, not everybody would have access to this core hub, right? It is very secure, and the only thing you will give access to the new people, right? So if a new a branch is or a new department is created, right, you just have to add these two things, right? So you would be creating a spoke vnet, you would be creating a spoke hub vnet, and then you will be just be attaching it to the core hub. You are not changing anything on the core hub, right? So that's a security thing. So that is how you usually do it. And then the similar thing can happen into multiple locations. So in my previous diagram, you see this one. So it will have this as a hop, right? So this goes to this firewall, and this firewall have this hub have a global VNet pairing to this hub. Similarly, if you're talking about multiple regions, then the core hub will have the global VNet pairing to the core hub in the other regions, and then there would be multiple spoke hubs, and then there would subsequently spokes, right? So just try creating the stuff. I would also create a video where I would be showing you practical how it's done for this one. And if you really like this video, please like, share, and comment. Thank you very much.